Welcome everyone. This is Two EdTech Guys Take Questions and Share Cool Stuff. And if you watched this back early, like spring and early summer, you might be like, man, where you guys been? We have been busy, but we did take a break from this particular show in order to make some other things happen, recharge batteries, all that kind of thing. And so apologies for the long delay in getting back. But as you can see, we found this amazing picture of a dwarf to celebrate the return. So with that, let's jump in. Oh yes, captions. All right, so I figure like one of the things we should all be paying a little more attention to is the cool accessibility tools that are now available in lots of different things, including Google Slides, which we're doing it right now. I know Zoom is working on this as well, a number of other tools also. So just know that if you have students for whom this would be a help, and that's actually tends to be quite a lot of different students, then feel free to add captions when you are presenting slides doing online instruction. And it's just clicking on that little guy right there and just saying boom and letting it do its thing, which is easier or less easy depending on how one talks. So there we go. And thank you. Let's get some thank yous out there. I'm noticing also that there don't seem to be any ends to sentences in the captions, but you know, some one long strung out thought. But thank you guys for joining us. I hope that we've got some great things to share with you. And then also, well, actually, I'm sure we've got some great things to share. I hope you will agree that they are in the realm of great. But also thank you goes out to the good folks at the Krause Center for Innovation at Foothill College in Los Altos Hills and the Merit 20 group. Woo, that's like part of the reason I've been gone is because I had this group that we did this amazing I think it's amazing, professional development program where the group came together and shared all kinds of cool dynamic ideas, and it was an honor to be with them for sure. We always have to say thanks to Free Tech for Teachers. Right, and actually, Richard, why don't you just give us, if somebody's like, "What's that?" What would you say to someone who's kind of new to the Free Tech for Teachers world?
I would say that I've written 15,500 blog posts about all manner of free educational and technology tools, tons of tutorials on all things G Suite for Education, Flipgrid, you name it. I've written something about it probably in the last 13 years. It started as a hobby and became a full-time occupation for a while. And now I teach high school computer science. That's me.
Excellent. I like.
And I ride bikes, and I'm a dad, as you can tell by the T-shirt.
He's a dad. He rides bikes, and I like that the captions at one point turned tons of tools, I think, to hundreds of Orioles, which one might need, right? Now, also thanks to my little effort to save the world from ignorance, one creative video at a time. That is Next Vista for Learning, nextvista.org. And I hope that you will sign up for my little newsletter that I send out once a month. That will tell you about different things happening with the webinars, about the contests and projects we run, and lots of freebies, right? So things you might want to watch or read or try, all of that you're going to find in the monthly newsletter. And when did the August one go out? That'd be yesterday. So feel free to give that a look. We'll get that link in there for you to take a look at just real soon here. On the site itself, videos about how to learn different things, creative approaches to different topics, communities around the world, service to others, careers. Let's see, we've got a huge English language project video collection, over 600 videos in that to help EL learners. And another project I'm going to be telling you about a little later in the show. So we'll also let you know that later this afternoon, from my West Coast perspective, there is another Activities Across Grade Levels webinar that I do with the amazing Susan Stewart. So we're going to talk about the first day of class today. So what this is what does it look like from K to 2? What does it look like from 3rd to 5th grade? What does it look like in middle school? What does it look like in high school when you're thinking online and first day of class? So we'll share some ideas on that front. Additionally, tomorrow, I am going to do a special little webinar specifically on Zoom's breakout rooms. in part because the breakout rooms are so very, very important for getting students kind of into that space of, hey, I'm connected to other people, I get a chance to talk to peers, that kind of stuff. So we will spend some time on that tomorrow. Feel free to sign up at the Next Vista site to do that. All right, how this is going to work today? You might be like, I know, I've been to these before. You each share a thing and then you answer a bunch of questions. We're actually going to try doing a few questions and then a share and then some questions and then a share and then some questions and just see how that goes. So here we go. Let's start with a question. So Richard, take a look at our question sheet. What would you pick up first as something we should explore?
So I want to get this one because I've gotten it in so many variations over the last few weeks. Question from Mary. How can we set up a second computer to see the whole class on a Zoom meeting? Now, I've gotten a bunch of other questions like it about how do I monitor what's going on in Zoom while also presenting, or how do I monitor what's happening in Zoom while also watching what's happening in my classroom. There's been a ton of variations on this question, but the one that Mary sent was, how do we set up a second computer? So the difference between setting up a second computer and setting up a second monitor. If you have the luxury of a second computer, it's a heck of a lot easier because you can simply just set up a second computer and you can run your Zoom in there and you can watch everything and then, or stream everything from there, then use your other computer that's in your classroom so that you can do whatever you got to do with it. Right? That's a lot easier. If you're talking about setting up a second monitor, however, it's a little bit different for every computer. Well, I shouldn't say for every, but for the two main operating systems of Windows or Mac, you can set up a second monitor, and it's just basically it's a lot like setting up a projector. Much like setting up an LCD projector for your computer. You're going to use two inputs, and you're going to use one screen to broadcast your whatever you want to broadcast into your classroom, and the other for monitoring Zoom. So there's that. I wrote more of a detailed piece about this on Sunday in my Sunday newsletter, and I'll put the link to that in the chat here if I can. Put that in there. I called it "Preparing for the Worst and Hoping for the Best." And in it, I covered setting up a second monitor with Zoom and just setting up monitors in general. But I also covered, I shared a little tool that I bought for myself, cost me about $50. Here, I'll hold it up the right way. So, and all the zip ties just fell out when I did that. But it's a little wireless mic setup. This end plugs into my laptop, and I wear, and it's just a little lapel mic, and I use that so that when I'm walking about the classroom, I'll still be able to have people who are watching on Zoom pick up what I'm saying. So that's my first thing. What do you say?
Well, there are a couple of different ways to kind of take the question, right? So you imagine, for example, that you are teaching a hybrid class where half your students are in the room physically, socially distanced, and half of them are at home. This is a way of addressing the desire to get back to school that a lot of districts are trying to make happen. And it certainly makes a lot of sense to try to use two computers in that regard, because you may want for there to be two cameras, one pointed at, say, a whiteboard where you are doing your work when you're explaining something, one looking back at the camera and the people in the room. That's possible. But without a doubt, you need to think about what it means. Like, let's say you only have one, and you've got it pointing at the whiteboard, and there are times when you're explaining something, it works for both groups, but then you're getting out to like try and point from a distance, like the things that are happening with the students who are in the room. At those times, you need to have the kids who are online working on something specific. This is a really good time to be using some kind of collaborative tool, whether it's slides and they're building something together, or they're writing out ideas together in a doc. It would make a lot of sense to make sure that if you are taking on that rather difficult challenge of the hybrid, that you are thinking specifically about, okay, what is it that I can have students do for several minutes at a time if I'm making my way around a classroom? So that would be another way of thinking about how it is that you are monitoring what goes on in an entire classroom. Let's get a second question in.
Okay. Second question came from Drew, who asked, do you have any recommendations for free options for 8th graders to code a video game students are ready to graduate out of Scratch? I'm looking for something that will give them exposure to programming, but hopefully won't scare them off. Any suggestions? So I have a couple of ideas here. Number one, code.org does have the option for you to transition away from block coding and into actually coding, writing code from scratch, hand coding. So that is one option to consider, and I've used that. Another option is, again, kind of depends on what your end game is. I know video game is very, very broad, right? Like, what do you determine to be a video game? You might look into Python Anywhere, which is a program that I used with some of my sophomores this past year. I actually used it a little bit with freshmen, but most of it is sophomores. But depending on the progression of your 8th graders, that might be a good option to consider as well. A couple of options there: Python Anywhere and code.org.
Yeah, toss those into the chat for our crowd that is
sorry,
this.
yeah.
And while you're doing that, I would say this: as you're thinking about having kids do coding, and this is a great example for coding, but absolutely not limited to that. The idea of trying to learn something as a group, if you can get people into a mode where what they do is, your students into a mode where what they do is they begin taking on the job of looking for great tutorials. Now, kids know how to do this, right? I mean, you can think of Minecraft, and kids have gone out and find folks who've made amazing videos about Minecraft, and they're able to say, hey, this is how I learned this from this video. If what you're teaching them is, okay, you're looking for a good tutorial video, we're looking for something kind of short, well explained, and gets to the point, all of that kind of thing. And you begin gathering those as a group. And the idea for the students is to share what they find. So they have shareable doc, right? You have the name of the video, you have the link to it, or the link embedded in the name. And then also, ideally, right, you'd have the name of the person who did it with a link to that person's channel. So you're teaching the kids to really think about, okay, how do I find other videos by this person who I know explains it in such a way that works well for me? This is true, by the way, also for teachers looking for great suggestions in the classroom. If you watch one of Richard's tutorial videos on his YouTube channel and you're like, that's amazing, make sure that you also do a little bookmark for his channel, because he's going to have videos there that are really good. A little plug there.
Thanks. So I put in the chat one other option. Now, this is definitely be way beyond an 8th grade. Well, I shouldn't say way beyond. Probably is way beyond most 8th graders. If you're really looking into true game development, you're talking about like 3D, animations and like really in-depth stuff. You could have kids look at Unreal Engine, but that's not something you're going to do on a whim. You're going to spend some time there. Like that might end up being your semester or your year or multiple years if you go down that road. Want to do another question, Rushton, and then do our cool shares?
I think we're up to a cool share, and yours comes first. So talk to us about iNaturalist.
All right. So iNaturalist is a site that I love because my daughters, who are 3 and 2, actually almost 4, before next week, 4 and 2, absolutely are in the stage of life where dad knows everything, or they think dad knows everything, and he doesn't. This is particularly true in the summertime when we're playing in the backyard or we're out on nature walks, and they ask me, what kind of bug is that? What kind of mushroom is that? What kind of plant is that? And I don't always know. So I do a couple of things. Number one, I take a picture of whatever it is they've asked me about. If I don't know the answer, or if I want to double check the answer later. So I take a picture of it. And Sometimes I'll use the iNaturalist app on my phone. And other times I'll just wait till I get home and do a search on iNaturalist, because there I can narrow it down to the region. And for me, that's Maine. So the region, and then I can look at the type of animals or types of insects, types of birds, types of plants, and the observations other people have made, and I can find out the answer. I find it to be a little bit faster and probably a little bit more accurate than doing a reverse image search in Google. So iNaturalist.org. I've been using it a ton this summer. Love it.
Very cool. That sounds like a great one. Matter of fact, let me kind of show that site real quick. There are some beautiful, beautiful photographs on this site as well. You know, you look at these and you see something like that. This is the kind of thing that can make a kid go, ooh, right? And one of the ways to measure like effectiveness in a classroom is the number of times kids go, ooh. I have that personal opinion about evaluating our profession. All right, let's hit another question. So pick something out, Richard. Let's see what we got.
All right. So this one, I have to record videos for students for online learning in our new normal. I have quite a bit of background noise in my videos, which is the noise of the laptop fan running. I usually use the mic embedded in the laptop. Do you think if I use a USB mic, it will minimize the background noise? Absolutely, it will. And there are a couple that I use and have used for years for this. Number one, this one here, and I actually own two of them. Reasons that I won't go into, but I own two of them. It's a blue snowball microphone. It's white, but the company is called Blue Designs. They make them in black and other colors too, but mine is white. Blue microphone. I've been using these for years. They plug right into your USB connection. They work well. The other one that I use is a lapel microphone from Insignia. And that one's a little pricey. The snowball ones, you'll get them for $40 to $50. My Insignia lapel microphone, that one costs $60 to $70, depending on where you get it from and when you buy it. Either one works well.
So in the cheaper range, I'm a big fan of the Logitech one. Let me kind of pull this over to where you know it can be seen like so. It's got this very kind of simple look, but you know this thing is like all of $15 to $20 or something, assuming they still sell them. I hope for the good of the world, I hope that's still the case. And there's that button on the front, so even if you don't want to like go find something to mute, you can just, you know, if you got a big sneeze coming, you can go. And you didn't catch it because I was doing that. Not that that's a big loss. Okay, so at any rate, when we think about a lot of these tools, I think that's actually a very nice question for a lot of the things that we encounter in this show. Is you're like, hey, do you know a good piece of hardware for doing X or Y or Z? So all good there. Take us to another question.
So quick follow up on the microphone thing. Wendy asked about a lavalier mic. The Insignia mic that I just mentioned will work with your MacBook. So that's one. Again, pricey, but works really well. So, all right, one more question. Let's see. We've got all kinds of questions. So I wondered if you might have any ideas about digital virtual word walls, especially for ESL students. Thanks, Amber. Rushton had an idea.
So yeah, when I think of like word walls, right? What I think first of like, okay, what's the purpose, right? The idea is to develop a certain kind of visual connection to help kids with their vocabulary, and I am a big fan of using slides for that kind of thing. Where what you do is you say, all right, you know, we're going to have this set of slides, and maybe you send kids to photosforclass.com because that's all screened images. And then they can use that to not only find a picture of something, but also to discuss the connection between the visual and the picture and whatever the vocabulary word is. So sometimes that can be something that isn't obvious at all. And people are like, why do you have that connection? But then they say, I was thinking about it from this angle. And people are like, oh, and that adds some depth to talking about vocabulary in a way that I think is pretty cool.
So I was going to add in, you could do this with Google Slides. So in Google Slides, you could put together a blank slide and use the objects,
Text boxes.
no, not text boxes, the actual objects. When you go to insert, I have to look at it because I'm blanking on the word insert shape. So insert shapes. Don't insert a text box. Insert a shape, and then right inside the shape. And that way, the text and the shape are connected, and kids can drag them around on the screen, or you can drag them around on the screen. I just did this earlier today to do a sorting activity on nouns and verbs. I was doing a demo for a group I'm working with in Kansas, and we use Google Slides for that purpose. And I actually have a video about it on my YouTube channel too, if you want to check that out. I'll put a link to it in there. So you can do that. But if you're looking for a true, like, real virtual world, like our old Second Life stuff, CoSpaces EDU. So, yeah. All right. Man, we got a ton of questions, Rushton.
All right, we'll do one more and then we'll do a share.
All right. So this one just popped in. Is it from Mike, who said, "What's the best settings for posting teaching lessons to YouTube? Public or private?" Neither. Unlisted.
Yes.
When you go, what I use is the unlisted setting in videos that I make specifically for students or specifically for groups that I'm working with. I've been working with a couple of groups this summer, and I make them all unlisted. That way they don't pop up in a search engine. They don't pop up in a regular Google YouTube search. I also disable comments, always disable the comments. And then I will embed them into whatever website that I'm using. And what I use is a WordPress website where I require a login so that people can see the page. So, yeah.
Cool. All right, I think it's time for a second share here.
Let's do it.
Let's jump in that. And today it is a project, shameless plug for my nonprofit. All right, and what it is, it's the Hey You project. It's something I started a few years ago. And I've actually got an intern this summer working on creating some more of these. What is it, you say? All right, Hey You is an effort to, like, help teens get advice. And you might be like, aha, I get it. Because teens are not known for their ability to listen to advice. And so the question becomes, well, what's the issue? And a lot of times it's just the dynamics between the person giving the advice and the kid, that kind of thing. But there are other very real things in play. So for example, if a kid is in class and that kid's teachers are all from, just kind of a different group, and they're kind of like, these people just don't understand me. To have somebody that maybe is more from a similar background or something like that can be great for helping them go, oh. So what we did was we said, okay, let's find some interesting people, and just of all descriptions. And we found 7 in the first run of the project. We got more on the way. And we asked them to tell 3 things. First of all, why? Why do you do what you do? So the idea is to have them tell a little bit about, say, their career and why it's important to them. And then also advice. What advice would you give your 16-year-old self? That generates some pretty darn good comments, I would say. And in part because, if it's this person you've never seen, but you're kind of interested, and the video is only a minute or 2 long, that's good shape for being able to be like, all right, I'll give it a listen. And then a story. What's a story that's related to something meaningful to you? And so we've got these 7 on the site. I hope it's something that you'll take a look at. And if you decide, hey, I would like to get my kids involved in making videos for this, I would love to talk to you. So there is my share for today, which I think means we still have time for another couple of questions, depending on how long you and I talk about it, which is, one of those things.
Yeah, we can ramble sometimes. So here's a question. Could you, and I'm going to try to answer this one without getting all ranty. Could you please suggest some sites or apps to use with kindergarten students? I have some already, but I want to hear your suggestions. Thanks a bunch. And again, I've gotten a variation on this question a bunch of times in the last like 3 or 4 weeks. And I always write back and say, well, what do you want your kids to do? Like, the end goal shouldn't be to just get them to use an iPad or just get them to use a computer. I don't think. I think you need to think about, what do you want them to accomplish? Why do you want them to use an app or a site? What's your end goal? That's a very broad question. That said, a couple of my favorite apps for little kids. I love Chatterpix Kids. I've done a bunch of projects when I've been working with schools with little kids, where the kids are taking pictures of a page of a book, and they then record themselves talking about it, or record themselves as the character from the book. So I love Chatterpix Kids. That's one of my go-tos. I also love Seesaw. Seesaw is another good one where kids can make short little videos and add them into their portfolios. So it's a couple there, but I always think about, what are you trying to get kids to do?
So Kurt tossed a question in, is there an equivalent for Chatterpix for the Chromebook?
So, glad you asked. Depending on your Chromebook and depending upon your network administrator, you could use the Android version of Chatterpix Kids on your Chromebook. So a lot of what ifs in there. So yes, but no.
So what I'll add to that question is that there's kinderrockets.world. This is Ben Cogswell, who's one of the great kindergarten teachers of our time, and it's spelled kindrockets.world. All right, we'll get that end everything right, but so that's a site that you definitely need to see. Another is that there is a shindig coming up, the K2 Can2 Summit, right? And this is something that is being, I think Ben is actually a keynote. Susan Stewart of Activities Above Grade Levels is part of that as well. I think it's being run out of EdTech Team Canada, right? And so if you go to k2can2.com, it'll redirect you to that page. It's not free, but I think it's about I think it's 75 Canadian, which is about 56 US maybe. So feel free to give that a look if you are into finding like your people with regard to K2 Can2, and then of course follow the hashtag K2 Can2 TOO because there's lots of stuff that gets shared there. So Richard, man, another half hour just leaps by. Let me kind of get through some of the basics here. Okay, so everybody out there, yes, thank you. What do I want you to do? Well, I want you to sign up for my newsletter. I want you to sign up for Rich's newsletter. I want you to catch our little shindig every week. I want you to tell other people if you like it, all that kind of thing. I want you to take a look at some of the other webinars that we offer as well. This one coming up called First Day of Class, just later today. Love to have you in. It's free. You might want to join the one that I'm doing tomorrow on Zoom's breakout rooms, because that's important to know. But just go out and be a good person generally. Like so your main job today is to find somebody who looks a little down and just say something nice to them. All right. Speaking of saying something nice, be nice to yourself, right? That's how we do a good job as teachers. We care for them, the kiddos, we care for their learning. We do it by taking care of ourselves. And so when you're looking for ideas and everything like that, look for folks who are having fun sharing them. I think that's important. As I mentioned before, the newsletter, lots to share there. I have a blog to which I post on occasion. Has it been a few months? It has. I don't have 15,500 something posts, but I'll tell you what, between the two of us, we've got a very high average. And so feel free to give that a look. rushtonh.com. Right. I've written some books that I hope you'll check out. You'll get these slides later, so feel free to give those a look if you like. Richard, tell us about this one.
So I am in the process of hopefully getting this done by the end of the month. I'm updating my Practical EdTech Handbook, but if you go to practicaledtech.com/weekly newsletter, you will subscribe to my Sunday evening newsletter and get a copy of the 2019 version of the Practical EdTech Handbook sent to your email. like I said, updating it. Hopefully I'll be done by the end of the month with some cool new stuff in it. It's free. You can get it, collect it, trade it, give it to your friends, whatever you like. That's that. Next week, I'm doing I shouldn't say another webinar. Next week, I'm doing a webinar for people who have always wondered about how the heck did Richard make any money from his blog, or you want to sell stuff on the internet. I'm doing a webinar that's a little bit out of the EdTech realm, but I am doing that. If you sign up for my newsletter, I'll tell you all about it. Or you can go to my YouTube channel. On my YouTube channel, I've got all kinds of tutorials and all kinds of stuff. From this week, I did one about how to stay away from an email scam that's been going around, and some other cool stuff.
Excellent. All right. So my name is Rushton Hurley. I'm a former high school teacher of Japanese language. Taught a year of middle school video production. Learned a lot doing that. Do a lot of work helping teachers kind of see new possibilities for creative approaches to using technology and how they do what they do. And I run nextvista.org. I hope that you will give that a look. I hope you'll sign up for the newsletter. I hope you do all this kind of stuff. And that you'll take a look at our webinars. That's one of the ways to get there, tinyurl.com/rh-webinars20. And you are certainly welcome to reach out via email, rh@nextvista.org. I answer every email I get, eventually. So with that, I think I will finish up our recording. And those of you who are joining us at the moment, we'll just keep going with your questions, because we're happy to help out. So if you were watching the recording, thank you again for joining in, and we hope we will see you next week.